All right, so I want to talk about one of the great benefits of dividends. So if you've managed to invest since you were young and are able to reach a portfolio of over $1 million and is probably collecting, or you're probably collecting yearly dividends of about, let's say, $100,000. So a great advantage of dividends, first of all, if they're in a TFSA, they're not going to get taxed. But if you're collecting dividends from a non-registered account, they still have a great advantage because they're really efficiently taxed. You're not taxed that much on dividends. So if you think about it, actually, a TFSA is amazing, but it's not that amazing considering the fact that you cannot do much in a TFSA but invest. You cannot day trade it in a TFSA or else you're going to get taxed on it. So the only thing that doesn't allow you to get taxed is capital gains and dividends. And capital gains is basically buying and holding long term. And if you're a dividend investor, you're usually going to buy stocks and keep them forever and reinvest the dividends in order to collect the dividends. But you're going to see in this example here, I'm going to show you that dividends aren't taxed that much. So the cost savings that you're getting from a TFSA is great, but not as great as you would have imagined, knowing that dividends in the first place aren't taxed that much. So I'm going to take an example of a retired couple living in Quebec, province of Quebec, with 3 children. And actually, let me just go make them older. All right, so imagine a scenario where this couple is only receiving dividends in retirement, but from a non-registered account. So if it's from a TFSA, it's not taxed anyways. But if it's a non-registered account, like a margin account, then it's going to be taxed, and it's going to show on the T5 statement. And in Quebec, you also have to add it in the RL3. So you've got eligible dividends and non-eligible dividends, and usually the difference is the source of the dividends, the source of the dividends, and from which type of company they come from. So let's do an example of each. So let's say they're receiving 100,000 in dividends per year from eligible dividends. So click continue, and then go do the same thing in the RL3 because they are resident of Quebec. Any other province, you just have to do it once. So actual amount of eligible dividends, 100,000. So a retired couple living in Quebec with 3 children, making $100,000 in eligible dividends, they would be paying a combined, they would have to pay $4,500 to the federal side and $7,800 to the provincial side. So that's 4.5% federally and 7.8% provincially on $100,000. That's amazing. Usually if it's employment income, if you're making $100,000 and you're just a single person, you'd be paying 40%, 45%, if not more. So just because they're dividends, you only pay 4.5% federally and 7.8% provincially. So if we look at the tax return, you could see under the total income bracket, the 100,000 gets marked up by 38%, but then there's a dividend tax credit that goes and removes almost all the tax payable. So you can see that the taxes owing on the 138,000 is 28,000, but there's a dividend tax credit here on this line, as you can see here, of 20,000. So on 100,000, this person will end up paying only 8,000, which is a difference of 28 minus 20,000 just for the dividends alone. But then you've got other factors that reduce his taxes, like he's got some non-refundable tax credits and some tuition transferred from someone. But the biggest difference comes from this 20,000, which is the federal dividend tax credit. So the 100 gets marked up to 138, making the person owing 28,000, but there's a dividend tax credit of 20,000. So that's a difference of less than 8,000. So 8,000 on 100,000 is very good. So this person is going to end up paying 12,500 on 100,000 of dividends received. So about 12.5%, which is very good. Let's see what happens if it was 50,000. So at 50,000, this person wouldn't even be paying any taxes. So once again, you can see there was a markup of 38% on the dividends, so bringing it to 69,000. So making the taxes owing is on that amount 11,500, but with a federal dividend tax credit of 10,300, and then with the basic exemption, the basic non-refundable credit, the basic non-refundable credits that everyone gets, this person is going to end up paying no taxes. So 50,000 that they're getting from a non-registered account, just because it's dividend income, they don't pay any taxes in this situation. And as you can see, for eligible dividends, the federal dividend tax credit is 15% of the taxable amount of eligible dividends. So taxable amount of eligible dividends is the markup that we had of 38%. So remember, we had 100,000, we marked it up to 138,000. So the taxable amount is 138,000, but the dividend tax credit is 15% of that 138,000. So if we go back to the tax return, we have our 138,000 that is taxed here. Part of it is taxed at 15%. So the first 46,000 is taxed at 15%, and then from 46 to 93, it's taxed at 20.5%. And then anything above 93 is taxed at 26%. So basically that dividend tax credit of 15% basically wipes out any taxes this person owes from this bracket here. So the first 46,000 is basically tax-free. And then the other tax credits that this person has, like non-refundable credits or basic tax exemption, part of it will erase the taxes here. So that's why at 50,000 this person doesn't even pay taxes. In fact, he can make some more dividends and will still be paying no taxes. But at 100,000 of dividends, this person will be paying about 4,500 in taxes. So it's this dividend tax credit here that really helps out. 15% of the taxable amount. So for the other types of dividends, the markup for these dividends is 19%. So instead of 38% for eligible dividends, the markup is 19%, but the tax credit is 10%. So let's try giving him 75,000. So at 75,000 of dividends, this person would owe 1,400 to the federal side and 31 to the provincial side. So not even 6% combined on 75,000. So after markup, the 75,000 becomes 103,000. Person is going to owe 19,000 in taxes, but they get a 15,000 dividend tax credit, which erases almost everything, plus their non-refundable tax credits, leaves them with only 1,700 in taxes to pay, or even less, 1,400 in taxes to pay. Now let's see what happens if they were living in Ontario. So right away with the same 75,000, you could see that they would only pay 3,000, while in Quebec they would be paying around 5,000. So already between Ontario and Quebec, you could see that they're better off in Ontario if they're making 75,000 in dividends. Let's see if we increase their dividends back to 100,000. So they're paying 7,200, and I believe if they were in Quebec, they were paying about 12,000 combined. So once again, Ontario is beating Quebec in terms of dividend income, in terms of taxes on dividend income. And I guess at 50,000, they wouldn't be paying anything. They'd owe a small amount. Now let's bring them to Alberta. So at 50,000, they wouldn't owe anything. Let's bring them back up to 100,000. So at 100,000, they would owe 6,300. So 6% on the 100,000. Now let's see if they were non-eligible dividends instead of eligible dividends. So non-eligible dividends, they'd be paying a bit more. They'd be paying around $11,000. So conclusion here is Quebec is probably not the best province to pay taxes. Dividends are very tax efficient, and eligible dividends are better than non-eligible dividends in terms of taxes paid on them. But that's just another great benefit of dividend investing, is when you do end up receiving the dividends in the future, you're not even going to be taxed on it that much. So if it comes from a TFSA, even better, you're not going to get taxed at all. But even if it comes from a non-registered account, you're going to pay very little taxes on it, if any. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. Like always, if you can open an account with Questrade to trade on the stock market, use my referral code in the description below the video to get up to $250 back. Thanks for watching.